Welcome everyone to a very special video that I have put together for you all, and that is highlighting and previewing the summer blockbusters of this 2023 summer slate. And this is an important video and a fun video to make because, and honestly, looking back on the last few years, this is the first time we've actually gotten a summer blockbuster slate all the way back to 2019. Because if you go back to 2020, we all know what happened to the world and movies shut down. So there was really no summer blockbusters. There were really no movies coming out that year. Fast forward to next year, we were getting day in, day out releases, things coming on Paramount, things coming on Peacock, things coming out on Apple, coming out on HBO Max, same day. And we know it really wasn't a blockbuster experience in the theaters that year. Come 2022 of last year, yes, we got the Doctor Strange. We had some other films that came out that did pretty well financially, most importantly stemming out from Top Gun Maverick doing its thing last year, huge success. But it really wasn't, it was just that was like the biggest thing in the summer, and deservingly so because it was such a great movie. But 2023, as we're going to go over from, and obviously from a calendar standpoint, summer doesn't start till June, I believe June 21st of this year. But as far as the movies are concerned, the summer blockbuster actually probably started, if you're being honest, maybe in March, if we're being honest, with Creed and Scream, but definitely April with the biggest animated film so far this year and the biggest, highest grossing film so far this year in Super Mario Brothers. But as I'm recording this on May 7th, we just had a big blockbuster that released on Friday by the name of The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Got a lot of content on that movie that you guys can check out on the channel. I'm going to go from May, June, July, and August and highlighting all the big summer blockbusters for the summer. And this is no slight to the independent films that I support, that I champion for, but we're focusing on the big blockbuster films in today's video. But by no means does that mean you can't go in the comments and say, hey, I'm excited for this film, that film. This is an independent film from A24. This is a horror film by Neon. Definitely, this is an interactive video. So let me know what movie you're excited for in the comments. But as we break this down, not only will I be highlighting and giving you all my kind of anticipation level, if I'm excited for it, if I'm not too excited for it, if I'm on the fence about it, but we're going to get back into talking box office predictions, because that's something that I used to do back when movies were out on a regular basis. So I will be giving you all some predictions on what I think will be the end result as far as the box office runs on those films. So we'll be getting to that and having a good time. But before we get into it, do your boy a favor. If you're excited for the summer blockbuster season, if you're excited for movies being back in the theater, and if you're also a supporter of the WGA getting their money, hit a thumbs up on this video, share this video. But again, leaving your thoughts on the summer blockbuster slate in the comments from what you're most excited for, who will win the box office come this summer of 2023, and all that fun stuff. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Fast 10. Yes, it is an X, but they wanted to be called Fast 10 because this is the 10th film in this franchise, which I need to remind you of. This franchise has been around since 2001. Last time I checked, carried over to 1 divided to 5. That is 22 years that this franchise has been around. That is insane. That is ridiculous that this franchise is still around. But yes, Fast 10, as you all can see, it's the whole family is coming back, right? We got Dom, we got his crew, we got some new villains that we're rocking with this time around, played by Jason Momoa, who I am a fan of, Drago, Aquaman, you name it. My man is the villain of this film. Now, the question at hand is box office wise. These films have been pretty successful. I am feeling confident to give this film $930 million. That's right. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Of course, we'll revisit this in the summer, but I'm going to go ahead and give you guys each one of mine. I'm doing $930 million for its box office receipts once it's finally done in theaters. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it made a billion potentially, but I'm just thinking about the competition that we're going to be going over here in a little bit. I'm thinking about the shorter times that movies are in theaters, as far as being on Paramount or being on some streaming service. I wouldn't be surprised if it made a billion, but I don't know if it's going to necessarily crack that $1 billion mark. So that's my prediction, $930 million once it's said and done in this theatrical run. But what say you? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below. But that's Fast X, May 26th. The Little Mermaid, ladies and gentlemen. The Little Mermaid, which is definitely making a splash to the theaters. I'm going to put myself out there and say that The Little Mermaid, really not a ton of competition for that family-friendly type of film in theaters. This will be the second billion-dollar film this year. $1.2 billion. I might be stretching there, but again, I'm looking at the competition. I'm thinking it's going to be really well. I think it's going to have that word of mouth. I think it's going to have the legs to get it to that $1.2 billion mark. But the question is, are you excited for this film? Are you not excited for the film? Are you thinking this will be $1 billion film? Will it not make $1 billion? If it's not, what is your predictions on The Little Mermaid coming out the end of May 26th to be exact? Let me know. With that being said, I'm going to give a quick Passover and hand it over, a little alley-oop behind the back pass to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Movie Palette, which is, you guys can see right above me here. And what is Movie Palette? Well, check it out. Movie Palette is a distinct way to enjoy your favorite movie displayed artistically on canvas. Their palettes are carefully crafted by digital artists who choose the dominant color from each scene from your favorite movie. These vibrant colors are arranged side by side in stripes on high quality canvas. The stripes are displayed in chronological order, and the width of each one corresponds with the length of the movie scene. The result is an intriguing piece of artwork that gives you a unique view of the movies that you've seen many times before. Now, if you can't find your favorite movie listed on their website, don't worry, you can still enjoy it displayed on the canvas. Simply tell them the name of the movie along with the year it was made, and they will create a custom movie palette just for you. All right, so shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Movie Palette, which is above me here. If you guys know me, you know what palette I got behind me, one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. It's a great film, Interstellar. So Movie Palette, you can find the link to their website in the description of this video, and you can use my discount code and check them out, man. Again, they not only have movies, but they also have TV shows. And if they don't have the movie or show that you guys are interested in, they do custom ones. So you can say, hey, I'm a fan of Twin Peaks. Can you make me a Twin Peak movie palette? Well, they sure can. And again, you can use my discount and get that thing hang up on your wall. I still haven't found a special spot that I want to put this in my house. Right now, it's just above me when I do these live streams, but I love it, man. I love Movie Palette. And again, you guys can check them out. And it's a way to support not only your art or your artistic side in your home, but it's also a way to support the channel because it is a sponsorship of this channel. So shout out to Movie Palettes. Getting back into it. So we covered all the big releases coming out in May. Now it's time to talk about June, which is technically the start of the summer season. But as far as the movies go, we got some big movies to look forward to. So Transformers Rise of the Beast. Transformers Mobilize. You know, I grew up with these characters. This franchise in particular, the Beast Wars, was a show that I watched, after school. It was something I was a big fan of, seeing Cheetah and all those different characters. So I'll be honest with you all, when it comes to this franchise, I've been kind of worn down with the Michael Bay of it all. You know, the first Transformer was fine. The second one was not that great. I have a soft spot for Dark Side of the Moon because it was the last hour and a half was all in Chicago, and I'm from Chicago, so it was cool to kind of see those landmarks. And it's also it was entertaining. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna sit here and stunt. I have fun with the Dark Side of the Moon. Then we got out of the Shia LaBeouf era and went into the Mark Wahlberg era with the 4, 5, and 6, and I can't even tell you the names of those. I don't even know. At that point, I checked out of the franchise. I've seen them all, but I haven't enjoyed them all. Then we came with the Travis Knight Bumblebee with Haley Steinfeld. It was in the 80s, and it was a throwback to just kind of those films of just enjoying it, and it brought back the heart and the soul of the franchise, but it didn't do that well financially. Fast forward to 2023, June 9th, we got Transformers Rise of the Beast. Now, to my knowledge, this has nothing to do with the Michael Bay franchise. This is kind of away from what he brought in that world and those lores and those mythologies and those characters. But I think this is in the same world as the Travis Knight 2018 Bumblebee film, which I know that is going to be taking place in the 90s, 94 if I'm not mistaken. And then his film came out in the 80s. So I'm thinking there's some crossover. So they haven't been promoting Haley Steinfeld, but I wouldn't be surprised if she pops up in this film. But even if she doesn't, this is a cast I'm excited for. Anthony Ramos, I'm a big fan of his. Dominique Fishback, shout out to her. She just came out with a show last month by the name of Swarm, which I highly recommend you all check out. And that is a film that I am excited is not the word, but curious about. Because again, if it's in the vein of the Bumblebee movies, then I can see it being something good. But based on that last trailer we got, it looked like more of the same. Michael Bay, robots clashing, metal clashing, and just kind of being bored and being tired by all this to action and really no story. And we'll see. We'll see, man. Again, Dominic Fishback, Anthony Ramos, Stephen Cable Jr. He has experience with doing franchise movies. Him coming into Creed 2 and doing that film, it wasn't as good as Creed 1 for me, but it was still a really good film. So I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for this film, man. Man, I just been burnt out with the franchise, and I'm hoping that this one is kind of a return to form, and hope it's in the vein of what we got with Bumblebee. 100 million. I think, again, as we'll talk about, the competition will be stiff for June, but I also think that people kind of may be burnt out about the Michael Bay of it all, and there's might be some brand confusion. Like, is this Michael Bay? Is this Bumblebee? Is it two of the same? So I think there's some confusion there. So we'll see, man. Again, I'm rooting for it, and listen, 700 million is nothing to blink an eye at. I think we've gotten to this mindset of like, if it doesn't make $1 billion, it's not successful. That's not the case. It's based on what I know from the film. And I don't think it got anywhere close to like the Michael Bay 200 plus 250 million. I think it was like under 150 million, if I'm not mistaken, on the production side of it. So plus you had in production as far as advertisement. So I think 700 million is definitely an attainable goal. It might do more, and I wouldn't be surprised by no means. But I think 700 million is kind of a nice sweet spot for this film to come and land for theaters come out June 2nd. One of my most anticipated films was not on my list here. I actually missed it here. So let me rewind. June 2nd is where the month begins. And we got a horror film coming out and a action movie spectacle animated sequel coming out. And that is The Boogeyman and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So this is a perfect example of what we like to call counter programming, where you have a horror film. Now, I'm not saying there's no crossover, but you have a horror movie and then you have an action movie. So I think this is a great opportunity for The Boogeyman to get some of that rollover for the next big film that we'll talk about, which is Spider-Man. But putting a light on The Boogeyman film, this is based on a Stephen King IP, and Stephen King IPs are hit or miss for me. A genius with the writing, but sometimes it doesn't always translate well to the big screen. From what I'm hearing about The Boogeyman, this was a film that was initially slated to come out on a streaming service. But based on screenings, feedback they got from that, this was a film that people said, no, this needs to be in theaters for people to be scared and to enjoy. And when you think about it, back to the James Wan effect back in 2012, 2013 with this Conjuring and Insidious, the movies in the summer weren't a big thing, right? Horror movies were just kind of segregated to beginning of the year, like kind of throwaway horror films in the beginning of January, February, the dumping season, or it came out in October or in the fall to kind of get in the mood. Horror films to get people to counter program against the big blockbuster films that people, they might get a little overstuffed with action movies and they want to get scared. James Wan, like I said, did The Conjuring, did the Insidious films, and they came out for the summer and created a lot of buzz. And you saw a lot of other studios do that as well. And we see that here with this June 2nd release. So I have enjoyed the trailers. It definitely comes off to me to be this year's version of Smile, which I enjoyed, and it did really well financially. They got a sequel in the works for Smile. So I am thinking that The Boogeyman will be this year's version of Smile, which is a modest, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a less than $25-30 million movie to make, another 30-40 in advertisement. And I think this is easily 35 million opening weekend, even against this big behemoth that we'll talk about here in a second with Spider-Man. I think 30-35 million is a reasonable thing to project, maybe 20-25, maybe, especially with potentially good word of mouth. But the trailers have looked good. People love to get scared. Horror is in the uppity up the last few years. It has that to its advantage. So don't sleep on The Boogeyman, or else he might get you in your sleeping hours. But I'm looking forward to it, y'all, and I'm excited to see what it has up its sleeve. And like I said, I think it's going to be this year's version of Smile, which was a surprise hit. So we got to talk about the big one, and this was one of my most anticipated films when I made that video last year, and that is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That's right, Miles Morales is back, and he's not alone. He's got a whole group of other Spider-Men and Spider-Women joining along with him this time around. And look, man, I am beyond excited for this film because I'm telling y'all right now, 2018, this film was not supposed to do what it did because it was Aquaman was out. It was Mary Poppins. It was, I think, another, was Bumblebee out during that time? There's a bunch of movies coming out when this film came out in 2018, and it made its way through because it was a great movie. Number one, it is one of the best animated films I've ever seen. But the thing that I was just more than impressed with was the story. This movie has so much heart, has so much soul. The soundtrack, the authenticity of, like, I've never been to New York, but it seemed just so authentic of just embracing the New York side of it. The, showing Miles's family and just the family dynamic of him and his mom and his dad and his uncle and just that whole storyline. And then the Spider-Man of it all, as far as like being Spider-Man and fighting for the little person and standing up for the little person and Miles' story tying into all that, man. I love the first Spider-Man. This second one has a huge heel decline because that first one is just perfect. It's my favorite Spider-Man story. Live action, animated, you name it. It's my favorite Spider-Man story today. Yes, that's over Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire, the GOAT. Yes, that is over Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man, the first one, is just excellent. Excellent. Come the second one, man, we got some new directors, which I'm a fan of, and I'm excited to see what they bring to the table. We, of course, are bringing back Miles and the family and Gwen and all the different Spider-Man that we got in the first one, but we also have a lot of other Spider-Man that we have grown up with, whether it's the video games, comics, animated series. There's a lot of Spider-Man in this. So at first, when I heard about the Spider-Mens of it all and Spider-Women's of it all, I'm like, man, are they going to forget about my boy Miles? These last few trailers, man, have shown that no, they have not forgot about Miles. More so, this will probably give us more about Miles. I believe this is a year, maybe less than a year from the original one. Still in that frame mind of him being a teen, him growing up and dealing with being a teenager, but also being a superhero. So we're still going to get that story. But it seems like based on the trailer, he has to make a decision. He already lost his uncle. But based on the trailer, man, it looks like his dad might be in the crossfires, man. And it seems like what we got with Oscar Isaac's character with Spider-Man 2099 is like, listen, this is part of our journey. This is part of our destiny. Loss is part of the journey. And it looks like if he wants to continue the multiversal things being in line, he can't interfere with potentially losing his dad. But it seems like on the trailer, he doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want to face the fact that he might have to lose his dad, and that might muck up some things and mess up the multiverse. And that, ladies and gentlemen, may be that window of opportunity to bring in, obviously, no, we're going to get a bunch of Spider-Man in an animated form. But I would not be surprised if we see a live action or maybe an animated version of a Tom Holland, of a Tobey Maguire, and potentially an Andrew Garfield. I wouldn't be surprised, man. I would not be surprised. I mean, if you saw the trailer, they did allude to Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. So we'll see. And if that doesn't happen, I'm not saying I need that to happen for me to enjoy the film, but I'm just saying that's on the table. But I am very excited for this. Super big fan of this franchise. I'm kind of torn about the fact that they announced it as a part one of a part two. Like, I know for the investors and the excitement and the buzz, you want to get that out there. But at the same time, I just wish that they wouldn't give us that, because obviously, it's going to probably end on a cliffhanger. And, luckily it's only going to be a year later. But I do wish they would have kept that close to the vest. But I'm excited for this, man. And as far as predictions go, knowing that it was an Oscar-winning movie, knowing that there's a huge fan base behind it, knowing that just Spider-Man in general is just Spider-Man's in a good place right now as far as fandom, video games, obviously the live-action movies, so on and so forth, doing a very strong $600 million at the box office once it's said and done. Which, again, just knowing that with the previous May, just taking to that account, as far as the first one doing really well from the box office perspective. But, doubling it up this time around to me is still, it's a good thing. You always want to see your movies making more than the previous one, right? Which I do think this one will do. Let's see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, $384 million on its first run, man, which is not too shabby for, again, new for, a lot of us new, for those that grew up with Spider-Man, was familiar with Miles, and those that read the comics are familiar with Miles. But for a lot of the general audience, they were first introduced to Miles back in 2018. So on a $90 million budget, it made $384 million. So yeah, it made a profit. And I think it's going to end up getting, close to doubling that with 600 million. So that's my predictions. But let me know what you all think in the comments about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming out June 2nd. So we're going to move on to June 16th. And this is a big, big day for movies. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to get the time and to see these movies, but hopefully we can work it out. June 16th, ladies and gentlemen, we got a variety of films, and I always love variety. As you all can see, we have a comedy, a horror comedy in The Blackening. Again, I just talked about it with The Boogeyman. You know, these horror movies make their way into the summer, man. I love it. We got The Blackening. We have a Pixar film, and we haven't gotten a Pixar movie in a while in the theaters, right? We got a couple of Disney's movies, Strange World, a couple other ones in the last few years. But a lot of the unfortunately Pixar movies have been relegated to Disney Plus. But this is the first big one that's going to be in theaters. Got a big one coming out. The Flash. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then, Asteroid City for any Wes Anderson films. Two big ones. Let's go ahead and talk about the Pixar film first, because like I had mentioned, this is the first Pixar film in theaters in a very long time. Right? We were all at home. Soul, Encanto, all those great movies. It was good for people to see him at home, right? But unfortunately, I think it created this type of mindset that the families were like, hey, little Bobby, little Timmy, little Cynthia, I don't got to take them to the theaters if it's already at home. So it kind of created this idea that people didn't have to go see the Pixar movies in theaters because they were at home. So it will be interesting to see how it will affect Elementals, because it definitely affected the most recent, at least this isn't Pixar, but it definitely affected Strange World last year. To be honest with you all, I much more like, I know people love their Disney films, the classic Little Mermaid earlier, Aladdin. I grew up in the 90s, and for me, my growing up in animation is all Pixar, man. Toy Stories of the world, all that stuff, Bugs Life, and those are, Incredibles is one of my favorite animated films of all time. Monsters Inc. is one of my favorite animated films of all time. Like, I love Pixar, man. But they've been on a decline in the last few years, especially with the reboots and the remake, well, not reboots, but the remakes and Toy Story 5 and all that stuff coming out in the coming years. And, they've been kind of lacking. But an original Pixar film, this film hasn't moved the needle for me. The trailers really haven't. It's an interesting premise, right? It's this fire and ice or fire and water, opposites attract. It seems to be kind of a rom-com, which is the first in the Pixar animated, genre. But it hasn't really moved the needle to me. Again, the animation is gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just like, we'll see. I'm not super excited for this film. I'll be honest with you all. But kid-friendly, Pixar, really the first big film to come out in theaters for them. I see this doing a good, solid $400 million by the time it's done its run. Wouldn't be surprised if it's less. Wouldn't be surprised if it's more. But for me, I'm thinking about $400 million for Elementals. But now it's time for the main event. Flash. The Flash, ladies and gentlemen, this film has seen its dog days. Like 2014, 2015. Because as they were prepping up for BVS was getting geared up and then Dawn of Justice, and they were saying, hey, we're going to give you not only a Justice League film, but Cyborg, Aquaman, which came to fruition, Green Lantern, Flash. That was almost a decade ago. This film has been in production for so long that the TV show Flash has ended its run. And we have yet to see. I mean, some people, as we'll talk about here, some people have seen it, and it does exist. It will be coming. It's been that long in the works, and it's been so many directors attached and writers attached, and this, that, and the third. And look, I don't want to get into the whole Ezra Miller of it all and not brushing it on the rug and not ignoring that by any means, because it does need to be said. And what they did was terrible. But just from my perspective, Ezra Miller wasn't the reason I was going to see The Flash. Ezra Miller wasn't the reason I was excited for The Flash. I'm a Flash fan, and I've been waiting to see The Flash for a very long time. And for me personally, and not saying that you're right or wrong, if you feel like, hey, I don't want to see this because of what Ezra Miller did, I completely respect that and understand that. But just from my perspective, I'm not saying one is better than the other or that I'm better than you in doing this, but I have managed throughout my entire life to be able to separate the art from the artist type of conversation. And there's exceptions to the rule, no doubt about that. But that's another conversation for another day. So again, I don't want to talk about the Ezra Miller of it all, but it doesn't mean I'm ignoring the Ezra Miller of it all. But with that being said, I am a Flash fan. Batman is my favorite superhero of all time. And the fact that we're not getting just one Batman, but the fact that we're getting two Batman, and the fact that we're getting, for some people, not my personal favorite, but he's a GOAT. He's a legend. I got to respect what Michael Keaton brought to 89 Batman and 1991 Batman Returns. He's back. That trailer that came out during a Super Bowl, I don't want to say, boy, that trailer was fire. That trailer was fire. And then the most recent one that came out a couple weeks ago, listen, man, I'm excited for it. And then not even to forget about the CinemaCon of it all. People were fortunate enough that attended CinemaCon to see a screening. And, even prior to that, James Gunn saying it's one of the best superhero movies he's seen. David Zaslav saying the same thing. Tom Cruise coming out saying, this is it. This is the one. There's all that hype about it. But I'm not one to bleed into the hype and let the hype set up my expectations. I have my personal expectations for the film just due to who's behind the camera. Again, I mentioned how horror and sci-fi are my two favorite genres, and Andy Muschietti is definitely someone that I always get excited for when he's attached to, horror projects, but just in general, Mama, the It franchise, and he just is a passionate filmmaker. And from what I gathered from, again, putting the hype aside, but just from what I've seen from a trailer perspective, clips I've seen, they let that boy cook. So I'm a big fan of what Andy's potentially going to bring us to the big screen. I'm really excited to see the Batman, Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, and of course Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Really excited to see what they bring with that character, and the fact that this is stemming and playing in the world of my personal, thus far up to this date, my favorite DCEU project to date is 2013 Zack Snyder Man of Steel. So the fact that we're revisiting one of the best in the DCEU is a plus for me. Zod and, all the stuff that we got with that. I'm looking forward to The Flash. And the big question at hand, again, not ignoring what they did as far as Ezra Miller, and I'm not putting this on the rug, but I think we live in a sphere in the film Twitter. We live in a bubble, and we know what they did. But I don't think the general audience is very familiar with what they did. I don't think the general audience is really familiar with what Ezra Miller has been doing for the last few years. So with that being said, hype, fire trailer, great marketing so far, word of mouth. And the word of mouth started over a year ago. I think The Flash will have very good rewatchability. $890 million. I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if it does not significantly less, but I can see it doing at minimum $700 million. Maximum, this is my sweet spot, is $890. It could do that billion. It potentially could do that billion because I think word of mouth will be very high, and I do think this will have a great rewatchability. Allegedly, this is the end of the Snyderverse. I know there's a lot of people out there that want that to continue, and all that stuff, and that's their prerogative to think that that's going to still happen. And who knows? Never knew that the Justice League would see the light of day, but here we are. I think this film's going to be fire, man. Again, I know that we know what they did, but I don't think the general audience knows. And they're going to come in droves when they hear about The Flash being, from what it's been said, one of the best superhero movies. I don't think it's going to be the best superhero of all time. I think people are definitely sipping on that hyperbole juice. But I think it's going to be one of the best DCEU films. And I definitely think it's going to be one of the best comic book movies we've seen this year. We'll see, ladies and gentlemen. We shall see again. That's my number, 890. I think it's going to be very successful. June 30th, ladies and gentlemen. Indiana Jones. That's right. Indy is back in theaters, and he is back with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to be honest with you all. Indiana Jones is a franchise that I admire, I appreciate. I have fun with those films, but I'm not like a diehard Indiana Jones fan. Like I know a lot of people, like a lot of you all that are probably watching are, but I respect them. I have fun with them. So with that being said, I'm not over the moon to see this film. And it's not even about the fact that, yes, Harrison Ford is, no ageism here, but he's up there in age. So it's suspension of disbelief of a, 70, 80-year-old man riding a horse and doing all this action. I just talked about the Flash. There's no Flash in the world. You got to suspend your disbelief. But putting that aside, the thing that I am very intrigued by, James Mangold. This man has directed some amazing films in his career. Most recently, Ford v. Ferrari came out in 2019. And I tell y'all, I slept on that film. I didn't see it when it was in theaters. I saw it much later when it came out on home video. And that if I would have saw it in theaters, that would have easily been one of my favorite films of that year. But this man has been doing great movies since I was 7, 8 years old. And I didn't see this movie so much later, but Copland's one that comes to mind. I thought he did a great job at. Walk the Line. I'm not a big biopic guy, but I love Walk the Line. 310 to Yuma. Wolverine was a miss for me. The Wolverine director's cut was a hit for me. And speaking of Wolverine, Logan 2017 is arguably one of the greatest superhero comic book movies of all time. So James Mangold is a dude that I look forward to seeing his movies, not getting off track, but kind of staying within the realms of Lucas features or Lucas films. I'm very intrigued by his Star Wars film about the Jedi, the first Jedi. Very excited to see what he brings there. But speaking to the Indiana Jones of it all, he is someone, and of course, I love Harrison Ford. I'm looking forward to seeing his last chapter in the role, but I'm really, really, really locked in on what James Mangold can bring to this franchise that has lost a little bit of its flair, especially with the last one, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull with Shia LaBeouf, and it's not as bad. Everyone tries to poo-poo on that film, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's not the best, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. But I'm liking this new cast, man. You got Antonio Banderas, you have Toby Jones, you have Boyd Holbrook, which again, shout out to Logan. He plays a good villain. If you guys haven't seen Sandman, he was great as Corinthian. Matt Nicholson, fantastic actor. He's playing the villain in this film. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I am such a fan of her. She is a generational talent. If you guys have never seen Killing Eve, you're missing out. If you've never seen Fleabag, you're missing out. She is a great writer, great actress. She has done some great shows that you guys, like I just mentioned, those shows just said there. She's written some really great movies too. She had her hands in the most recent James Bond film, and she has her hands in some other projects coming to be. But like I mentioned, she's a great actress too, and she will be in this film. So again, not the biggest indie fan, but I'm here for it, man. I will be seeing this in theaters when it comes out. And if I'm being frank, it'll be the first Indiana Jones film I've ever seen in theaters. So that's where I'm at with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I know that might be low for some people. I know some people have $1 billion for this one. I don't see it hitting those notes, man. I really don't. I just think it's going to come out in droves to see this, that love Indy, that grew up with Indy. There's a lot of nostalgia behind it. A lot of people grew up with this character. It's going to hit the needle as high as people think. So look, we're going to revisit this stream in a couple months at the end of August, but this is where I'm at with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is 680. So before we move on to the next month, again, like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're having a good time, definitely do so. Let's move on to our next month, which is July, man. This is the middle of the summer, man, and we got some stuff to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. And coming out the beginning of the month of July, we got, again, man, I love the horror. I love horror, and I also love comedy. And we got 2 to look forward to come July 7th. We got the Insidious franchise. I believe this is the 5th one, the Red Door. And we have a new comedy by the name of Joyride. And I heard some pretty good things about it. So let me know if you guys are excited for Joyride coming out this summer. But moving to Insidious 5, the Red Door. Insidious 1 is still a classic, still holds up to me today. That red demon still scares the hell out of me. Performances by Rose Byrne and Patrick Wilson, who we'll talk about here in a second. And part 2, as good as part 1 for me personally, is kind of like The Conjuring versus The Conjuring 2. I much more prefer the original than the sequel. Insidious 3, which was not the best. We'll just call it Chapter 3. I think that was the subtitle, but it was okay. It was nowhere near the first one or the second one, but it was okay. Then we had the 4th one, which was The Last Key, if I'm not mistaken. And I've only seen it once. And then it brought Ellie back. And I love that actress that plays her, but it was a prequel, and it was just not for me. I like to say the first 2 were good. First one being great, second one being okay. Third one being not that great, 4th one not being that great. So it's 2 for 4 for me, right? But the thing that gets me excited about this new one is that they're bringing back the fundamental elements. Number 1, they're bringing back the original cast. We got the family back. And if y'all seen the trailer, my man Dalton is a grown-ass man in college. And it made me feel old seeing him as an adult. Ty Simpkins, man, that kid has grown up so fast. Iron Man 3, Jurassic World, and he was in that movie. He did pretty good in that movie as well. So he's come a long way, man. He's grown up so fast. But they're bringing back all the family, man. But also Patrick Wilson, who I'm a fan of as an actor, he's making his directorial debut. So You're bringing back the OG family. You're bringing back an actor that's been a part of part of the first two. I'm hopeful, man. Like I said, even with the last two being not the greatest, I am gonna, like, by default, I just have to see it because I've been there since day one, and I'm hopeful, man, that this is a good send off or beginnings of a new of a new trilogy potentially. But I'll be there for both films, Joyride and Insidious: The Red Door. Let me know if you guys are excited for both of those films. And as far as predictions, the Insidious movies don't make box office crazy money, but I can see it doing like 115, 120 worldwide, and I can see Joyride doing the, kind of the similar numbers with it being kind of a lower budget comedy with a great cast. So Mission Impossible 7. Damn, 7 of these, y'all. Dead Reckoning. And this is another Spider-Man thing, part 1. Why did y'all have to tell us this is a part 1? But listen, Tom Cruise is back. Rebecca Ferguson is back. Vin Rames is back. Simon is back. We got such a great cast is coming back. We got newcomers coming in. We got a new villain coming into the mix. That trailer was fire. Tom Cruise is jumping off of a bridge on a motorcycle with a parachute. He's fighting someone on top of a train. What else do you want from this guy? He gives us entertainment, y'all. I am such a big fan of the Mission Impossible. I actually have the box set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I will definitely be revisiting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 prior to this film coming out July 12th, which is on a Wednesday. But of course, it'll be it's going to have a nice little run for the weekend. Fan of the franchise. And this is one of the rare thing where each film is bigger and better, if you ask me. Looking forward to this next one. The man has always been an entertainer. The man has always delivered to give us some great movies. Most recently, Top Gun Maverick, which brings me into my box office predictions. 845 to 850 range is what I think. I think it's going to have a really big opening weekend. Again, knowing that we just went over some of the competition around, it's not a ton of competition surrounding it. Of course, we're still going to get some layover from Indiana Jones, but then you have two kind of smaller niche audiences with a horror film and a comedy the week before. The week after is a pretty big feat, which we're going to get into here. But I think that this is going to have it's going to have legs, just like Top Gun Maverick. So 845 is what I predict that Top Gun, I keep saying Top Gun, but Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning Part 1, 845. But I put an asterisk behind that because the following week is a banger. We got Oppenheimer and we got Barbie coming out on the same damn day. Now, for the longest, I thought that one of them was going to move. I thought Barbie was going to move because, listen, Christopher Nolan, I know Tenet didn't do that well financially. I do think that, and I love Christopher Nolan. He's one of my favorite directors working in Hollywood. I think his ego got in the way. I think his ego, he should have did the Tom Cruise thing and waited to the pandemic. And he would, I think Tenet, I know a lot of people don't like Tenet. I love Tenet. Dude. It is my type of cerebral action, cerebral type of movies. And Christopher Nolan is one of those dudes that do that. Him and Denis Villeneuve are capable of those type of films in today's climate. But the thing that I'm really intrigued by with Oppenheimer is this is the first time Christopher Nolan's done a movie about an actual person. This is a big spectacle biopic. We don't see that in theaters at all. Oppenheimer is the creator of the atom bomb, which, as the poster says, it changed the world forever. So to get a character-focused, character-driven type of narrative with a stellar cast, Cillian Murphy is such an underrated actor. I'm so glad he's leading a movie. He's always a supporting, he works with Nolan a lot. Typically supporting. I know he does Pinky Blinders that a lot of people love, and I haven't watched that, but I heard he's great in that. But as far as he's not a leading man. He's never really got that opportunity. I'm a Chris Nolan fan. I'm really looking forward to Oppenheimer, and I think it's going to do pretty good at the box office. I think this is going to be somewhere in the 700 million range is what I'm thinking. I know that's crazy. To put that in perspective, this is a biopic in the middle of the summer. You're saying, Elliot, it's going to make 700 million? I think so. I'm probably going to be wrong, but I have a feeling that I might not be. 700 million is what I'm thinking about Oppenheimer. But that brings us to the more lighter film, the complete opposite film, the Barbie movie. My goodness, y'all. This film, we talked about The Flash earlier. This film has been through a lot of iterations. Amy Schumer was supposed to be in it. It was supposed to be more of a comedy. But in the hands of one of my favorite directors working today is Greta Gerwig. She is a star in my eyes. Lady Bird was one of my favorite films. 2019, your boy gets emotional every time I watch Little Women. That movie, you know, that's been a film that's been redone a bunch of times, but I think the best version of Little Women was her version of it. Got all that, the talent behind the camera, writing the movie, directing the movie. But then in front of the camera, you have some very, very talented individuals. You know, we're led by Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling is another. I know Ryan Gosling's not for everyone. Some people consider him to be kind of one note. I think the opposite. You know, I think Ryan Gosling has a lot of nuance in his performance because it's very hard to be a straight man and not straight sexuality. I'm talking about the characters he plays very kind of, you know, stoic and doesn't evoke a lot of emotions, but it's in the nuance in his performance that really gets me is the head tilt, the nods, the response to certain characters. Some movies is very, you know, he doesn't say that much. You know, you might think of films like Drive, you might think of films like Only God Forgives, but you know, he can do comedy, man. You know, we have Crazy Stupid Love, and I know it's overhyped for some people, but one of my favorite romantic comedies of all, well, romantic films with a little bit of comedy is La La Land. I love La La Land. I'm a stand for that film. I know it's not for everyone. It should have won Best Picture that year. No disrespect to Moonlight, but that was my favorite movie of that year. But none of the other there. I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling, big fan of Margot Robbie, and I love the supporting cast. The trailer was goofy and funny. It's coming off to be very tongue-in-cheek. But I mind you, who's doing this movie is Noah Baumbach as a co-writer and directed by the incredible Greta Gerwig. They're not slapstick, tongue-in-cheek, goofy. Their movies have substance. So I think this film will definitely have a lot more than meets the eye reflection type of movie that I think will surprise the audience. And it might shock audience because I think some people think it's all goofy Ken and it's going to probably have that kind of self-awareness, but I think it's going to be a lot more impactful and it's going to be a much more meat to the bone than people anticipate, which I think is great. I love the talent behind it, but they don't really sell tickets. I'll be honest with you all. You know, the rumors out there of Margot Robbie being Sue Storm and Ryan Gosling maybe being in the MCU, Ghost Rider or whatnot, or Nova. They don't really bring that many people to the theater. But what does bring people to the theater, and this is another conversation for another day, and that's brand recognition, IP. I don't need to tell y'all, Barbie is a generational IP, you know, from way back when to now. Girls, boys, men, women grew up with these characters, grew up with these, you know, these toys. 550 million. Over halfway to $1 billion, 50 million is what I'm confident in thinking that the Barbie can do. And you guys got to remember, these numbers might seem modest, might seem a little bit lower, but you got to remember the state of where we are as theatrical experiences. I'm taking it to the competition of it all. Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible. You know, again, those are different movies. You know, it's not a ton of crossover. Warner Brothers, you're happy with that number. You are very happy with that number. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's more. But I think this is the low end. If I'm being honest with you, I think this movie's going to have, it's going to be a word of mouth because I think a lot of people will be surprised by how much they're going to get out of this film. I'm hopeful for that. And again, Talk to Me is coming out at the end of the month. So coming out August 4th, we got 2 movies to look forward to, 2 different movies. We got the Meg 2, The Trench, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. So let's start off with the movie that I'll probably go see. And that is the Meg 2, The Trench. Now, I say probably, but it's not a guarantee because listen, I haven't seen the first Meg. I think it's on HBO Max. I'm going to probably see it before the second one comes out. I like Jason Statham, but when the first Meg came out, that was one of those, that was during the time when you had options. You can be like, I can skip this one. I want to see this one. We had options, right? Like we do this summer. So for whatever reason, it just kind of went on the radar. And listen, I like B movies, over the top, goofy type of men versus creature. In this case, Jason Statham versus a shark. Let me know if there's any Meg fan. And I don't box office wise for this. I don't even know what the first one did. I would say the Meg, end of the summer, people going back to school, kind of last of the blockbuster season. 200 million. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I'm a fan. Grew up with these characters. Love them all. I've seen all of them not all of them in theaters, but I've seen the ones that were in theaters. I've seen those 5,000-6,000 times. Didn't really keep up with the animated shows as the years went on, Nickelodeon and other variations of movies that were in theaters that maybe didn't blow the box office doors off. But I don't know why. I saw the trailers. It looked cool, you know, kind of Spider-Man type of design. You know, I know another Seth Rogen project coming out this summer. And they're teenagers, which is always cool. I'm overly excited for it. Again, if I were to pick between those two, because they're coming out on the same day, August 4th, I'm going to probably go for the Meg, even though I haven't seen the first one. But it doesn't mean I'm hating on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. But it just didn't move the needle for me for that first trailer. But let me know which one you all are most excited for coming out on the same day, August 4th. This is the second to last official under the banner of the DCEU. And I still don't know. James Gunn hasn't like flat out confirmed, but he kind of confirmed, but didn't at the same time. Said that this might carry over to his new DCU. We'll see about all that. But putting that aside, my knowledge of the character is very little. Very little. I'm not that familiar with the Blue Beetle. Heard of him throughout the years of reading different various comic books. I've seen him pop up in various different comic books that I've read with different characters. I've seen him in animated shows. So I'm on the periphery. I know of the character, but I don't know the beats and the lore and the mythology and the and the backstory. So this kind of exciting because it's very rare that I'm not up to speed with these characters that I love, because I love DC. DC over Marvel for me all day, every day. I grew up a DC fan, so it's just inherently, I just kept that flag going. It was cool, man. I don't watch Cobra Kai, but I know the actor that is in that show is a fan favorite. He fits the part, man. He looks like he can handle the hand-to-hand combat. He looks like he can carry the film. And from everything I'm hearing, that they seem to put an emphasis on the family element, right? That it kind of has that Shazam, Miles Morales type of family being the backbone of the character and really what pushes the character to be the hero that he needs to be. And then it has that Venom, type of lore, that Green Lantern type of lore of an alien attaching itself to a human and having the abilities to create things with their minds and talking to the thing, the AI, not the AI, but the alien, symbiotic relationship like what we got in Venom. So you get those vibes. It's at the end of the summer. Again, taking the whole, is this character going to carry over to the DC or not? It got to do well first, right? And I think this film, for the Latino community, I think they're going to champion this film. I think a lot of other, ethnicities like myself will go and support this film. So I'm here for the Blue Beetle, man. I hope it does well. I hope it's a good movie. And if it is, I hope we get more of that iteration of the character moving forward, because I do know it has ties to Booster Gold, which I know was announced during the DC slate from James Gunn himself with the Monsters and Gods, and that is the show that he's working on. Yeah, we'll get a continuation in the new DC universe, breaking down all the major movies coming out this summer. We got a full summer slate to look forward to, y'all, and a lot of reviews to look forward to, a lot of discussions hopefully about these films to talk about, and on top of the shows that will be coming out, on top of the movies that will be streaming on various streaming platforms. Again, we support the WGA, so hopefully we can get more movies, more shows in the works, with them getting what they need to survive and to make a living. So, man, this was fun, y'all. This is the first time I've ever did this. Some things I definitely want to change if I do this again come next year, or maybe do one for the fall. And we will revisit this. I definitely will put this on the calendar for the end of August. We'll have to come back to this video and watch my goofy, crazy predictions for the Barbie movie not doing $1 billion, or maybe being crazy thinking that the only movie I think will make $1 billion this summer will be The Little Mermaid. So I might be wrong. I might be right. You all might be right. You might be wrong. We'll have to revisit this come August, the end of August, to see where all these movies landed. At the end of the day, I hope all these movies are great. At the end of the day, I hope all these movies do well. And I hope that the writers get their money so we can continue to get these movies in theaters to be excited for. So you guys are awesome. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching this video. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Be safe. Be kind to one another. Love one another. Peace out, everyone.